The North assistance package, so they've been approved for this?
Yep. Yeah, AFL and North confirmed this on Monday afternoon. So the Roos will get a first round pick at the end of this year's first round. So that'll be like pick 19, and that'll push back to maybe 22, 23 after some bidding. They'll also get 2 similar selections for next year's draft. So at the end of the first round, 2 selections for the 2024 first round. They also had 2 additional rookie list spots this year, and that'll get extended into next year. So that last point probably just works, gives them a bit of list flexibility. Maybe a couple of guys who they were going to delist get another year, or they just look at some SSP options over the next few months instead. But the first point that the first round pick that they get for this year really is going to give them a huge hand. From a 2023 lens, that's their opening pick, their potential Ben Mackay compensation. They've got Port Adelaide's first round pick, and then they're adding what is now pick 19.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot. On top of the assistance they got last year to get Darcy Tucker and Griffin Logue. It can be quite considerable, and we haven't even talked about the future picks in a sec. But that's an easy play to get Harley Reid if they want him. That's setting you up for pretty well for the future, even though they've already been pretty heavy into the draft the last few years. So that's quite significant.
Yeah.
That one pick alone. And I think, to be honest, it was a bit of an overs this package. I think that pick maybe alone might have been enough to satisfy the Roos. Maybe not totally with what they were asking for, but enough to satisfy the Roos. Look, they get an extra first round pick. That's not that bad.
Yeah.
No matter where it is in the first round, that's still pretty helpful. On top of all the other selections they'll have. But then you add in these 2 future first round picks. Now the AFL can rescind these, or they can review them in 12 months. But North Melbourne can trade them this year, which makes it very interesting. So this is really interesting. So obviously, if they had those 2 picks heading into the start of the season next year, then there is probably some incentive that they don't have to play as well as they could, and that way they keep the picks. If they played really well, that's great. Like that's what the club wants still, but they might lose those picks. So I'm not saying you're going to look at it as tanking again, but it's some incentive to play poorly, which is what every draft is. That you do need some incentive for being bad, but this is just additional on top of that. So they can trade them. North kind of stated on Monday they can trade those, which means that they're probably on offer. Like if you're a rival club and you want future first round selections, or you just want to, if you're happy to look at next year's draft, which it's going to be midfield heavy, a few father son selections. So there's going to be some clubs interested in the 2024 draft already. But a big talking point I think you can take out of this is that North wanted Riley Sanders, and I think they got more than just getting direct access to him, because these 2 picks plus maybe pick 19 this year, they could trade to get in line for him. On top of that, there are already early selections. So while I think a lot of clubs would have been ropeable if they just got direct access to Riley Sanders, they probably are still upset with the level of how strong this package was. These 3 picks really could just get them Sanders in a trade. In a way, like obviously the draft has to play out in their way, but they could move themselves into the top 5 and have 3 top 5 picks.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot going on there.
There is, and you can understand maybe Chris Scott's comments on frustrations, because it's kind of the clubs in the middle that are probably losing the most now. They're fighting to get into the top 10 of the draft, and all of a sudden their picks are pushing back out to 12, 13. So Geelong, for example, will have pick 7. That'll probably blow out to 11.
Yeah.
And it's pick 7. Like, you should be getting a top 7 player in the draft. Instead, you're looking outside the top 10. So there's some frustrations there, which you can understand. And like I said, North now have a lot of power. That's not only all the first round picks that they've taken, but they've got 3 for this year.
Yeah.
On top of, and then they'll add maybe Ben Mackay compensation. That sounds like it's going to happen. So that'll be picks 2, picks 3.
Yeah.
Pick Port Adelaide's like 16, I think, or maybe 14 or 15. And then pick 19, which, like I said, most of them will come back. But still, and then they get 2 more first rounds on top of their first round of next year. So
on top of previous years where they've had...
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, like they haven't had heaps of assistance over the last 10 years, but and they got a little bit last year, which they had to trade for players, which kind of worked. But these future selections are likely going to be on the trade table. They'll have a lot. that they get to work with, whether it's adding experienced talent, which there's not a lot of great experienced talent out there that's off contract, so you're probably going to be looking at contracted players, or they can try and move themselves up the draft order this year and just not throw away, but move on those future selections before the AFL has a chance to review them. So that's another incentive for them to get better quickly. It's from the AFL. So there is a balancing act of how you want to use those picks, but I'd be surprised if A, North aren't putting them on the table quickly, and B, if rival clubs aren't looking at them. So yeah, it's very interesting. I would say, look, the package was probably overs. I reckon a future first this year and maybe a future first next year.
Yeah.
At the back end of the draft would have been okay. The additional one is probably a lot, and then the idea that they can trade the future one, even though the AFL can review it, is a bit of a funny one. But it works both ways. So, yeah.
It's just going to be another one of those Clarko's a genius moments, just grabbing every advantage that he possibly can.
Clarko's like, he wasn't obviously heavy on the draft in the later stages of his career when he joined the club, and they weren't in a great position, and they did really well at the draft. Yes, they got some help, but it wasn't all just the AFL handing them selections. They picked the right players, and a lot of it comes down to development. Like I think that's one thing you got to think of. Like North have probably struggled on the development side of things as well over the past 5-6 years. They've got some ace picks, like Aldiu's a superstar. She's on Wardlaw in one season. You like to think what you're getting with those two guys as well. So development's certainly turning in their favour a bit, but there's a lot of players they've picked up over maybe the last 5-6 years that go the other way, and that's obviously leads to a lot of turnover and then leads to the position they're in. But promising signs this year. And it'll be interesting to see what comes up in the next month.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of trade and draft content planned out. So, I think we're going to be talking about North a lot over the coming weeks. Yeah. So, thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.
Got a lot done there. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, this is available as a podcast now if you prefer to listen to this rather than just watch it. So if you just search Zero Hanger AFL Podcast on all your podcast apps, it's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. And don't forget, you can catch all the latest AFL news at zerohanger.com.